Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanitarian Horizons. Christina DiArcangelo, Unveiled. I am so happy to have one of my dear friends from across the pond, so we like to say, Anna, with us today to give us an update on all the amazing things she's working on. And I will let her tell everyone where she's from. I think most of the people that have followed us over the past couple of years probably already recognize Anna and probably remember some of her amazing good work that she's been doing. But welcome, Anna. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Christina. It's a great pleasure for me to come back to you because each of our interviews were with such a warmth, such a kindness, such emotions that I got here from all of them, that it's such a great pleasure for me to come back to share my experience, to share my piece of my life with you, with your audience. And I believe it will be very useful for them to know how the things are going on. I'm actually Anna Titkova from Ukraine, from Site Network, International Site Network Pratia. I'm the country head of operations in Ukraine and International Operations Director in our company. So I started my business with my current company from 2019, managed to build the activities, the clinical research unit, the site network on the territory of Ukraine. Unfortunately, in 2022, when the war came in our land, I was forced to leave the country and continue the operations and work, combining the work in Ukraine with international operations in our global central structure of Pratia, and at the same time supporting our patients, supporting our doctors, and giving them some hope that we can continue to work on the territory of Ukraine, that there is still hope to rebuild the country, to rebuild the clinical research landscape there. And today I can say that everything is doable, everything is manageable, and some of the news that I have already had, so I may share with you regarding our life there.
Oh, that is so awesome. So, just to recap for everybody who may not have followed the previous podcast. So, I have met Anna and we have spoken on and off over the past couple of years, as she alluded to. And we talked a lot about your work initially when the war happened. You were in the middle of running clinical studies, and all clinical studies are very important. However, you do a lot of work in oncology. So you had patients that, were very close in proximity to where the bombings were occurring and all those things. So I just kind of wanted to recap a little bit back so that if people weren't familiar with everything, they would catch up to where we are today, so they understand the news that you're going to share today.
Yeah, but before the February 2022, I've got 20 plus clinical researches on the territory of Ukraine performed based on my hospitals with which we communicate and collaborate there. We've got 300 patients randomized, so we're performing different types of clinical trials. But when the war started, of course, everything was stopped. So any continuation of visits, any IMP shipments to Ukraine, so everything was frozen and dead. And of course, the biggest influence that was on the oncological patients, because actually for them, that's literally the only one possibility, the only one chance how they can continue to survive and how they can have a more or less normal quality of life. And I was involved in the transferring of the patients from Ukrainian sites to our Polish sites of the company, because our company has different locations in 8 European countries, clinical research sites there. And of course, Poland was the closest territory country to Ukraine. And I was involved in these activities. We transferred 14 patients in general. Among them were oncological patients, and also also I shared my story of one young girl from Ukraine with lymphoma Hodgkin, for whom this was the only one chance to continue the treatment and life overall, because any other options, they were not efficient for her before she started participation in the clinical trial in Ukraine. So we have this story with a happy end, and she's still in Poland. She's continuing her life here, having some new love and new work here in Warsaw, in the capital of Poland as well. So this was like one of my stories with a happy end. Of course, we've got some disasters. We've got not very positive results of this work, but overall, so we need to remember that sometimes we as an ordinary people can do for someone an extraordinary things, and we should believe in this and put all our efforts and desires to do so.
That is amazing. And I think you really rolled up your sleeves and got in there, and we're trying to figure out ways to help these patients, try to find them. I know that you had some difficulties finding some of the patients because, you guys lost communication, right? You had no Wi-Fi at certain times. Phones were not working, cell towers bombed. So it was very hard for you to be able to keep track of these people. And then you're trying to champion them. And these are sick people, right? This isn't an antibiotic clinical study you're running, right? That's a little bit easier, on the patient to move them. But this was a severe, these are oncology patients. This is not a simple therapeutic area that you're trying to manage. And then trying to stay in communication with the sponsors the entire time. That was so much that you had to do everything. You were like a shiro, really, with a cape on, trying to move the patients, keep track of the patients, communicate with the sponsors, roll out across the globe several different locations so that you could field the patients over there so that research could continue to go. Because most people don't think about this, right? Most ordinary people aren't going to think, oh, well, if there's a war going on, they can't have clinical studies. Why would they think that, right? So this was major. The Ukraine has, and I'm not going to turn this into a political, conversation, right? Because we're not going to get into the politics aspect, but the Ukraine has been through so much, and it has been attacked time and time again, and hopefully we'll have peace soon. That's what they're saying anyway. I'm hoping, that Trump can help with that, considering he's fixed 8 other issues globally. It would be great if we could finish this so that you guys, and to your point earlier, you have to rebuild now, right? I don't think people understand the trajectory of what happened to your area and to your facilities and things like that. So do you mind talking about that for a couple minutes?
Yeah, sure. You remember that probably when we've got our first interview, I believe it was 2022 at the beginning of 2023, I was always saying that Ukraine is not the black dot on the map of clinical trials. We have patients still, we have doctors still, we have facilities still. So
Right.
Everyone is ready to perform. We need to work. We do not ask for any donations. We ask for work. We ask for giving us this access to international community, to give this hope to our medical professionals, to our doctors, to understand that they're still in the game. They're still among their colleagues. They're equal. They are the same. They shouldn't be out of the work. We should give this belief for our patients that it doesn't mean that being under this bombing and shelling should influence on their medical access to treatment, simple treatment, life-saving treatments. And this was what I was always pronouncing and saying, that do not count the numbers, do not count the money. That's business, of course, but we need to think from the human point of view, because we're all humans. We should be humans. We should behave as humans. And of course, it's important here to understand KPIs, so to be business oriented in any business that we're doing. But maybe sometimes when we have such unpredictable circumstances, we shouldn't consider our patients as a simple ID number in our ECRF.
Right.
So this is a human with his own story, his own pain, his own hope and belief. And we should understand this. We should understand the patient's need, patient's voice, the patient to feel the patient pain at the end, and that can be the trigger to
the
give
catalyst.
this work,
Yeah.
the catalyst, to give this to give this hope, to give this work to everyone inside this medical our society for clinical researchers. And actually, what I can mention, and I'm proud of it, that from 2023, 2024, we can see the real interest of sponsors and CROs, big CROs coming to the Ukrainian market. Big sponsors announced that they're officially in Ukraine, big CROs as well. So we see the increase of clinical trials, of course, not as it was before the war, but anyway, to compare 22, even the beginning of 23 year, during the last year and a half, we see this increase of clinical trials. So we see that people are coming to us, and then they realize how important Ukrainian market was, because we provided a significant data for clinical research. So, and it was missing. It was not possible to replace by other countries, by other sites. And they're coming to us once it revealed, and now we have new clinical studies. So we also started some new clinical studies on our sites on the western part of Ukraine. And you know, when our first study came, it was the beginning of this year, 2025. It was so big amount of messages from patients to our PI, to our doctors with this thing. Thank you very much. That finally they realize what is the normal life is. And I even had this post on LinkedIn to show that to the community. That's the essence of our work. Even to give this relief for 3-5 patients on one side, on another one. We save these patients. We're giving them the sense of life. They are under the bombings. They're losing the hope to live. But at the same time, we're giving them a small portion of belief and hope in this life. So that's for me was the biggest achievement during these 3 years and a half.
That is amazing. That is amazing that you've been able to, and you know, a lot of it, and I know how you were. You're not going to pat yourself on the back, so I will. A lot of this was because you have been championing this from the beginning. I remember reading your posts on LinkedIn. That's how I originally reached out to you to connect with you for I am Christina DiArcangelo, because I saw what you were trying to do. And I mean, I don't live in the Ukraine, so I don't know how horrific it could be, but I have an idea, how terrible it could be. And you really have championed this. I don't think that you would be as far along with clinical studies and things like that for the Ukraine in totality, right? It's not just what you're doing. You have really led a voice, in my opinion, to clinical research in the Ukraine. And you have been in the US constantly. I see you. You're in the US constantly speaking at conferences, which is all because of you and your good work. And the fact that you have always put the patients first. It wasn't about profits. Yes, at the end of the day, you have to pay bills. I mean, I remember you saying that when one of the bombings went off, some of your staff was staying in your phase 1 clinic because they lost their homes and they had nowhere to go. And you just opened up the clinic and said, okay, guys, you could stay here for as long as you wish. Until you could figure out, or we could figure out a way to help you. But that was amazing too. And so I keep going backwards and to go forwards just because I want people to see how far along you've come. And yeah, granted, we can't cover everything because most people buzz out after a certain amount of time on these podcasts, not us, but people listening. But I just want people to see the histology, if you will, of where you've come and where you are today. And you should be very proud. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe that here, I always make this note that when our film 20 Days in Mariupol received the Oscar and the people were coming on the stage receiving it, and they started the speech saying that I wish I've never made this film. And I always say that I wish I've never told you these stories. But if we're on in that situation. So if we're passing this way, if we're having this experience, positive, negative, but this is what we have. We're doing mistakes. We're making some progresses. We're trying to adapt. We're trying to survive. And I believe that's the best way how we can share this knowledge. For someone, like an example, what can be done? For someone, just a sign of a hope in case of some difficulties and problems that they have. For someone, like the learning information, to consider, to reconsider, to estimate something in their business, in their life. So not to repeat our mistakes or to follow our achievements and results. So I believe that probably that's our some kind of destiny that we need to show, to bring with us, and to bring something good in this world, and not to come to the repeat of such situation as we got in Ukraine.
I like the whole thought process on trying to be positive because, you could be very negative. This was a horrific situation that you were in. And every day you got up and every day you said, okay, I'm alive and I'm here to help people and I'm here to help my patients and I'm here to figure out what it is we could still do. What can we do going forward? How can we plan? How can we move? How can we pivot? And that's a lot. That's a lot on your shoulders to bear. Not to mention that you have your own family that you're worried about. And I know, I remember, I believe you have elder parents. Is that correct? I remember us talking about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're still in Kharkiv, in the eastern part of Ukraine. So yeah, more and more complicated to manage this, even to communicate, to find this stability, to find this normality in their existence here or in the city. But yeah, that's also one of the things that we need to manage
and to think about, right? Because like you said earlier, we're human. You're human too, right? And you have a greater calling, in my opinion, in the world. And you're going down this pathway, and your pathway is to help your patients and help a lot of patients and really put a big stamp on the clinical research map, if you will, globally, to represent Ukraine. But you're a human at the end of the day. And you have your own issues, and you've had to kind of put that to the side and focus on these patients and what you need to do. And by the end of the day, you have a small amount of time to worry about yourself. Everything you've done was to worry about everybody else while trying to manage personal things that were happening within your capacity.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I think that's a big deal. I mean, I don't think that a lot of people have thought about all these various things. They see stuff on the news and they don't think about the whole picture, so to speak, and how it looks. And just because we're here and you're there, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be worried about people, and we should want to help them. And I think that you have done an amazing job, Anna, really trying to push this ahead and really help all of your patients.
Yeah, of course, we cannot help everyone, but at least if you make someone smile during the day, it means that it was worth to live this day. And that's
right.
probably one of the main reasons how we should consider this life and do the things that we're doing.
And I think if I could be bold, I think that was one of the drives to push you ahead forward, was because you saw this, just the person here or the person there, the person here, wherever they were, you were seeing an immediate response from them, right? So you're seeing, oh, what I'm doing is making a difference. This is important, and I just have to keep going. I have to have that determination to keep going. I can't stop. I've got to help these people. I took an oath. I'm a doctor, so it's like, meaning you, not me. I'm not a doctor. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it's really important to notate that, because it's one of my favorite things about you, Anna, is your big heart. You've got an amazing heart, and it's just amazing that you're wearing red today. And here, I was able to kind of dovetail in the whole heart aspect of it, because that's really important. And as professionals, especially in clinical research, we don't always get to see everybody's heart.
Yeah, because we are focusing on KPIs, metrics, finance, numbers, and we haven't got time for nothing more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Anna, we are already up on our time. Can you believe it? It goes by so fast every time we meet. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming back on and talking to us for a little bit and giving us, hope.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your invitation. meditation that, of course, as you mentioned, yeah, that it's not enough what we are doing, but in any way, what you do here today is not enough to keep you in the same place tomorrow. That's why this is my driver, that this is my engine fuel. I don't know how to call it. That
It is.
I should have this force because I have people around me who appreciate this, who notice this, who admire this activity, and that's who believe in me, who believe in what I am doing. And actually, that's the main passion that is coming to the work that I do, and I'm very happy that I can share it. And this is accepted by other people, appreciated by them, and I believe that we may go forward and we can say not goodbye, but see you soon with the new
That's
information, with the new ideas, and that we can share to your audience.
That's right. That's what, you know, it's funny you say that because my father, he used to always say that. He never said goodbye. It was always, I'll see you later. Always, I'll see you later. And so, like, even when he was dying with the cancer, whenever I would leave, you know, him for the day, if he was in the hospital and I'd go home to take care of my son, Krish, every time I left, it was, I'll see you later. And then his brother was the same way, his older brother. And unfortunately, 3 years later, he ended up passing away, and I was helping him through the advocacy firm and everything. And it was interesting to me that every time I left him, same thing, he would say, I'll see you later. So I love that you said that. Thank you. That makes me happy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for conversation. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me. See you later.
I will see you later. Thank you, Anna. We'll talk soon. Bye bye for now.